Assalamualaikum guys, I'm here with the lovely Naseem and myself, Shafina, and this week our topic is boundaries and respecting boundaries. So let's go ahead and get started. We were just having a conversation.
Yes, we were. So I think in times gone by, for yourself, for myself, we've experienced people who it might not even be a relationship, it could be a friendship, it could be, a friend from school, it could be a neighbor, and they just want all of your time. Like, and when they're on the phone or they call or they come round, they just can't leave, or they won't end the conversation when you're hinting, oh, it's start time. I need to kind of get ready, or, I've got to prepare some stuff for work, got to do this, I got to nip out and do some errands. It makes no difference. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, boundaries, that's one way of looking at it in terms of conversations and people taking up. I guess the boundary would be time that you're speaking of, right? There's so many different areas of boundaries, and sometimes it's like, what exactly is that? And I suppose it's just protecting yourself, um, and not having people cross over that line. And in terms of what you're saying is time, yes, sometimes I suppose when you're getting to know someone or just people in general, I mean, I could think of different areas, not just relationship, but in terms of a relationship with family, parents, siblings, and sometimes can just friend people in general. Okay, I don't overtake your time over along that conversation. And like you were just saying, you might be getting ready for iftar and say, okay, I gotta go now. And they're just going on and on and on. And it's like that they're not getting the hint, or you literally having to, I don't know how would you tell the person and be like, you know what, I need some space, or you know what, like um I know I'm not the best at dealing with it, but lately I have been setting boundaries for myself, and it has in a way sort of come across a little bit not rude, but some people think I'm upset. Some of my family, when I've just said, all right, I'm gonna go, and they're like, what are you mad about? Actually, this conversation was last night and today, and I left, and I just knew I had a lot of things to do. I had to pack, and I'm always on the go, right? And I was like, no, I'm good. They're like, oh no, but you just came, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go. And I wasn't being rude or anything, but I knew that if I stayed, it was just gonna long out, and in the nicest way possible, wasn't gonna be very productive. I had a lot of things to get done. And they found it sort of offensive. However, if I didn't put that stop to that, I wouldn't have got everything else done, because they're not going to come to my house and go pack my stuff for me, or tidy my room or whatever. And the fact is that we all have a lot of things to do. And sometimes I feel some people don't quite understand, or they just don't have anything to do, or everything's getting done for them.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Am I
They have
making
different
any sense?
responsibilities. They have different
Um,
responsibilities from you. They've got different things to do, and different lifestyles. So somebody who's got more laid back lifestyle, they have less things to do. They're not going to be as bothered about time. And maybe they want to spend more time with you, and they're like, oh, I'm enjoying this conversation. I want to be here longer. And I've been in that situation recently as well, when I've gone to visit and I'm sitting there and it's like gone 40 minutes and I'm trying to work it out. I'm like, well, I'm not staying for iftar. How long is it going to get me to drive home? I don't even have a date in the car. Like, how am I going to open my fast? And it's been a case of, do you know what? You look tired. I think you need to rest. I think fasting is getting to all of us. How about you put your head down for a bit before fast opens, and I should leave, like trying to find a way to leave. Honest to God, it's so hard. Because obviously at the end of the day, you do want to stay. Like, end of the day, you're enjoying the conversation, you do want to stay, but at the same time, you have responsibilities. You've got to fulfill those responsibilities as well, and they happen in all sorts of situations. They happen in relationships. I don't know if you can identify. Sometimes you've been in relationships and the person that you're with just wants all your time as well. You're like, I don't have this time to give. I don't know how you feel about that.
I do feel that, okay, so I have been in situations where I'm like, I don't have time to give, but then I've had to learn that actually I need to allocate time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was like, okay, if I can schedule my time where I'm like, this is me time, this is work time, this is business time, because I've got different types of work, right? And then it's like, okay, now I've got cleaning time. okay, now I've got time for them. However, now for me, I think that's quite in a nice way. I'm allocating time to when I'm giving 100% to that. However, I find experience found expensive that I'm allocating time to them. Do you see where I'm coming from? Where they were like, "Oh, so you have to fit me in a time slot," and it wasn't like that. It was just like, actually, in order for me to get things done, I have to get time. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. If you can understand, like, I mean, you're always dealing in calls and stuff, and it's the only way to get forward, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of.
So,
So I jump on a call and say, look, we have this much time for this call because I have another call in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is.
yeah,
And then as it's coming up 2, 3 minutes before it, I'm like, is there anything else that you want to share? Because, I kind of need to go. So if it's even if it's a personal call as well, I say, look, I'm logged into work. I've got to take my. I mean, today I've had 22 meetings and my day's not finished. It's just mad. We've had lots and lots of couples, and mashallah tabarakallah, every one of them said yes, which is good news for us, but it's much longer because then they all want to chat and they want to meet again, and oh, what, she was so this and he was so that. It's great, like I love it. I'm thinking, oh my god, alhamdulillah, great. But the no's are quick. Oh yeah, no thanks. And the yeses are long, and then they encroach into each other's time, and they're not realizing I've got the next couple like in minutes. And they have a link that they can book in the link, and then they can, that is specific times allocated for them to talk about the meeting, but they get excited because they want to meet again, etc., etc. So yeah. But yeah, it is managing time, respecting boundaries are, I think, it's a big hot topic right now. It's big.
100%. And I think it's really important for your mental well-being as well, because if those boundaries are over, I have destroyed certain situations because boundaries were overstepped, and it just couldn't be undone. For me anyway. Once that boundary is passed, whether it's a time thing, that's one boundary. But another thing of boundary is when people step their path, what they say, what they do, and intervene and things like that. So certain boundaries, when they're crossed, I feel sometimes it can never be undone, and that relationship can be quite tarnished
Mm.
and never repaired in a sense. So I think it's good from the get-go of a lot of relationships, if possible, with I mean, friends, whatever, to set boundaries and have that respect. And I feel like if you have someone that kind of you understand and they each other, then naturally those boundaries will be there. Like, I know, for example, my friends that are married, I will avoid calling them late night. So my girlfriends, right? I know they've got families, they've got kids, they've got their husband to deal with. I'm not going to do that. If there's an emergency or whatever, I'm sure they will, but I would drop a message first. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't just call, like
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. Like, they sort of respect my time as well. They wouldn't call me late night, or no, first thing in the morning is not the time to contact Shafina. Or even if you tried, I probably wouldn't respond. But you know what I mean? Like, that's my time in the morning. So everyone's got it's but those people, I know them very well, and we set those boundaries, and it makes the relationship much more healthier, and it's a more loving relationship. And I feel, even with this, if there are people sort of going or getting to know people, understand that everyone has a life, and everyone has different responsibilities, like you mentioned, which is a good way to put it. Everyone's got responsibilities, everyone's got things that they've gone through in life, and maybe if you are trying to get to know someone and you're like, why aren't they giving me time? Did they not like me or something like that? You've just got to work out and be like, hey, maybe communication is good, to just be like, hey, I don't want to intervene too much. Let me know how much time you've got each, if you can talk daily, or if you can talk every other day or something like that. And maybe just understand that, not to take offense to it, but it
Mm-hmm.
just makes a healthy relationship, I feel, when you respect each other's boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I like your point by saying that, look, in a healthy, loving way, share that, look, you really do want to stay. You would love to stay and spend more time. However, these things are also needing done. So stay for a few more minutes, and then, please excuse me because I've got to get these things done. Even with us, before we jump on, you've got to be jumping in the car, going where you've got to be doing. I was putting fires out with like my people, or couples, this and that happening, and trying to sort all that out on my end. So it's, life happens, and yeah, I even as sisters, like respect your time, you respect mine, and we're always checking in with each other as to, right, okay, you can't make this, like, okay, let's have a look at diaries. And so you can't just random call or random say, right, be here for me, whether it's work or whether it's personal. I think that is just very respectful to say, can you give me time at this point? Do you have not have other things going on? Because as you said, you could be traveling with your life, you're off to shoot, you're off to this, you're off to that, you've got like a million other things to be doing, you've got all your emails and whatnot to do. And then you've got your other business, and and then you've got other projects running. So it's like you've got all that stuff going, and all these plates need to be spinning. So therefore, if
Yeah,
people in your life don't respect your boundaries, you'll go crazy.
100%, 100%. Switch this thing off. You've got to have that time to switch off and relax and everything like that. And I realized, I think today, I actually took time to try and do my hair and do my eyebrows, like, because I have to prepare for the shoot. And I was thinking, oh my God, I let it go. I didn't have the time. And obviously we're fasting as well. This morning I was like, 10 minutes, and I was like, capsule shake done. I was like, I don't have time for this. But you know what you have to do, you're getting to know someone. I feel like Ramadan's a really special time, and it's in mind that Ramadan is probably the last time they're gonna have it to themselves. I try and avoid as much as possible any sort of meetups early during Ramadan. Anyone's like, oh, let's do this. I'm like, nope. It's Ramadan time. It's my only time I've got. I don't know if I'm gonna have another one. And then no, in a nice way. And yeah, definitely.
All of what you were saying, but it was
No worries.
definitely about like organizing yourself and how you were sort of compartmentalizing things in your life.
Yeah, so sorry about the connection here. So I was just sort of saying that about prioritizing the time, and also for me myself, I don't think I would actually have much time for someone where you are right now. And for example, I've been do you want to get to know someone? And so I was just saying, within myself, I know that I don't think I would be able to um give any time to anyone right now. So maybe there's someone out there before, because obviously you have to give time to someone. So if you're trying to get to know them and they're wanting to get to know, and you're saying, I haven't got time, I'm too busy. This is a note to myself as well. It's not just directly to whoever's listening. The fact is, I know, so for example, Naseem has said to me, Shaf, are you ready? Are you ready? And I was like, no, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm doing this and this and this, because it's only fair, because I know I can't give myself enough time right now, let alone somebody else. So out of
Mm-hmm.
respect for that and anyone else, I don't want to mess anything up going forward. So I know that, you know what, I'm giving myself this time to work on all these projects that I'm doing. And I know I'll be so much happier and better, and I'm feeling amazing anyway. And I know these are my commitments right now. Then when I take a bit of a breather and I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to take to the next step and, move forward in my life, then fine. So this is the thing as well. If there are people out there and they're like, oh, someone asking for too much of my time, it's nice that they're asking for your time, I suppose, because you want to get to know them. They want to they want to get to know you, and they want to spend time with you. So in a sense, it's a positive thing. Obviously when it gets over excessive, but then is an issue. However, in the beginning, I feel like people get excited, you know you get excited, and that's probably why they want to spend a lot of time. So hopefully if you can find a, okay, I understand in the beginning it takes up time, but then it'll be like, all right, we both have responsibilities. These are mine, these are yours. Let's like balance it out a little bit so we're not feeling overwhelmed or pressured. Because it is a change, especially if you're single and you're living on your own, or you just got your own life going on, you're working. It is a transition to add someone into your life, to share your space with someone. So I feel like all of us have a lot of growth that we need to do in that time. I myself as well, because I become so used to just being on my own that I'm like, oh, you would have to give time to someone. You would have to think before you do anything to, you'd have to like, it sounds silly, but you're gonna eat food with someone else. You're not just sitting there by yourself, just having,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm just gonna get my own breakfast. Like these things will have to come into consideration and understanding, and then understanding it's going to take some time. But then I suppose if you are in your right match and you're really happy, I feel like you would naturally give that time anyway. That's one thing I think I've learned. And I thought, okay, if I'm in a situation where I'm just like, oh, this person's getting so with me, like taking too much time, then perhaps maybe I don't really want, I'm not interested in that person. The big indicator. Because I feel like, so these are lessons I've learned. I think I'll be happy that, yeah, Shafina's grown in this time. These are things I've been learning over the time of with our support sessions, um, which have been really beneficial, by the way. So if you want to know, contact this team for them. They're very, very good. I feel like now that understanding and learning about myself, I know that if there is someone there that I feel like is worthy of my time or I want to give them time, I will probably find that time.
Mhm.
I'll move things around and I will give them
Mhm.
um I would give them that time, and yeah, but also help them understand my boundaries so they don't.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's a part that I think is playing on my mind today is that I've had so many conversations recently in the last couple of weeks that all boil down to happy to stay in touch, but and want to stay in touch. But if I sat with you like every single time, let's say just person to person we're chatting, and I know that this conversation is going to go right through to like 9 o'clock and for the next 3 hours, although I'll really enjoy the conversation, and I'm going to miss all my meetings and I've got all this other stuff to do, and fast will open and close, and I still haven't prepared any food. It's just
Yeah,
like you have to then, I think you have to know, if you like that person enough, you have to know that they need to do their own things. For example, you might want to like quick shower and freshen up before you go to Rawi, or you've got other things to do, and you've got some food that you cooked, you want to all pack it away, put it in the fridge. I don't know, everyone's got their jobs to do. No one's going to come and do them for you. You got to do them yourself.
yeah,
So if you've got somebody speaking to you, whether it's at a personal level or business level, whatever, you need to kind of think that, there's more than me in this person's life, you know. I mean, I got a message from one of my clients to say, oh, message for a catch up, I've sent the support number message, and, and this and that happened and that and that. And no one's responded back to me. And I'm like, mate, it's Ramadan. We're working on reduced hours. Not everybody works 7 days like I do. People will be signed off. When they sign in, they'll respond back to you. And he's like, right, right. Oh, sorry. Oops. I get it. Like,
yeah. I
I'm
mean,
not sat here 24/7 just to write at the phone to respond to you.
yeah, I mean that's the thing as well. I mean, I've got some other work projects I mentioned to you that we're working on, and we're having our Zoom meetings and things like that. And I'm like, okay, guys, you know what? Let's call it a break. We'll catch up. And to be honest, the Zoom meeting ended up happening at 11 o'clock at night. But because of the Ramadan time, we just have to work it the way we have to. Because some people, you're dying halfway through the day, your brain's not functioning. So,
Oh, fasting
so
brain. It's a thing.
right,
It's a
it's a
real
thing. Fasting rain is a thing. Oh, I can't explain what happened the other day. Oh, the police stopped me, but that's another story.
Oh
Unless
no,
they,
let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear the police.
oh my God, it was terrible. I'll go into I'll tell you that's where I got stopped for a second, but I'll just tell you about the meeting. So the meeting, I said to guys, I was like, hey, you know what? They're like, oh, I'll jump on the call shortly and stuff. And I said, no, 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 take your time. Iftar is coming up, and we'll catch up later on tonight. And then that person that was fasting as well was just like, you know what, I like your guys' energy. This is cool people to work with. And it was just about respecting the fact that they were fasting, and instead of them rushing to the meeting trying to get the work done, I was like, no, 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 let's all take a break and we'll come back later. So that was just a way of respecting each other and then setting those boundaries for everyone else and everything. And usually we wouldn't have Zoom calls late at night. It's just Ramadan changes everything sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, yeah.
yeah. So,
So
so what do you think for anybody listening out there that has got an issue with whoever's in their life respecting boundaries? What would you advise? Do you think?
I suppose instead of getting annoyed with them and frustrated, maybe perhaps and try and have that conversation. If you're getting to know someone, say, hey, look, it is, if it was me, hey, it's Ramadan. Um, I mean, I'm terrible. I'd be like, I'll speak to you like next month because my tolerance level has changed. But if you are talking to someone and they're wanting to get to know, I suppose, then you'd be like, hey, with all due respect, this is my time to develop myself with my goals, my Ramadan goals, whichever they may be. You don't have to, and I feel like there's a boundary where you don't have to explain yourself. You shouldn't
Mm,
have to tell them what they about what your Ramadan goals are. Especially if that person is, you're not married yet or anything, it's, I feel like respect your own boundary. Don't feel like you have to tell someone everything.
Mm,
Um, if they're mature enough and understanding and have the emotional intelligence,
mm,
they'll understand. Okay, cool. Of course, it's Ramadan. Do your thing. No worries. Yeah, I'll just check in with you like once a week and just make sure everything's going okay. And I'll keep you in my duas. That's
mm,
probably the best, nicest way,
mm,
most beautiful way to answer someone that wants some space.
mm,
Um, however, I feel like if the person's just like, oh, but you're not making time for me and I miss you and da da da, that kind of thing, I feel like first is a lack of emotional intelligence. Secondly, there's no respect for you. And thirdly, that's selfishness because they're just thinking about themselves and not thinking about your needs and wants during this time, which is Ramadan, which is, I feel like everyone should just let everyone just be during this time. There's a situation within my life right now, and it's a sort of certain matter, and it's caused a lot of stress and stuff like that. And so, with all due respect, I kind of just wished the person Ramadan Mubarak and so just left it at that. However, they did message me since then, and then I've ignored it. But then they've messaged me again yesterday, and they said Assalamu alaikum, and is everything okay? Are you mad at me? Whatever, whatever the message was. And so because they had said salam, I felt like I have to respond and say wa alaikum assalam. So I did. And I was like, wa alaikum assalam, with all due respect, it's Ramadan, and I'm kind of just staying in my own lane right now. You
mm,
know,
mm,
enjoy the rest of your Ramadan. And I
mm,
left it at that, whether they've checked the message or not. But that was me setting a boundary in a nice way,
mm, mm.
because, that's really important.
So it can go belly up if you don't handle it well, for sure. What's your thoughts on that?
So yeah, I've had experience of that where it's flipped over and gone the wrong way. And I suppose at the time I should have been like, all right, case close this now. I ignored it.
You know,
I
red,
was
you pick up the red flags, no?
Yeah, no. I was like, oh, what flags? And I've come a long way. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, I really hope I have now. So with that, I would just say,
Mm,
and I'm not saying people are horrible or mean or evil. I just mean that maybe it's not the right match.
mhm,
If you're not on the same wavelength and understanding and emotional intelligence level, because it's different, we did emotional intelligence. We
mhm,
spoke about the different levels of that as well. Everyone's got different levels of it. If maybe you guys aren't the right match, and just take it as a sign in a nice way, in an amicable way, just be like, okay, cool, let's just not talk in the nicest way,
yeah, that's the end of the road and go for
yeah, yeah.
sure. Yeah. But
Maybe.
I think that if you, sorry to speak over you, I think that if you're, whether it's a personal relationship, a friendship, somebody you're getting to know for marriage, or somebody in your life, if you're not able to say to them that, look, I love talking to you, I think we've got a great relationship, we have so much in common, this has so much potential, whatever it is, yeah.
Mm,
But I do have these other responsibilities, and I feel that maybe you're not getting that, you're not understanding that. So it'd be really great if you gave me time to do these other things that I need to do. And if you've said it 2 3 times and it's not penetrating, as you said earlier on, then that person just thinks, it's all about me, and they don't really care too much about what you need to achieve. Therefore, that will, my personal opinion is, that will then cause a strain in the relationship, because one person constantly keep talking, the other person wants to communicate but has other commitments, or maybe just has a busier life than that person. And until that person can, people, they move forward together as a couple living in the one house, for example, that might be one scenario. Then it's different. The pressure's off. You're cooking for your partner. You're cleaning up for both of you. He's doing things, you're doing things in the same home. But if you live in a separate home, have to, you have to take responsibilities for the home that you live in. I don't know what you think about
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting because other thing as well, what you just pointed out is that when you're together, living together, you're married and everything, it's going to be a whole different thing. Now, if the person can't see that, like if they're being like this already, like there's a way of understanding. Obviously, you're trying to get to know each other, but you can't be going to go live with each other and all that stuff. It's not make sense. Obviously, you're gonna have that time where you're having to give some time. but you also have your own life to take care of. And then obviously when you get married, it's like explaining to that person, when we're going to be married, and then we're going to be with each other anyway. And then that's another thing that you have to learn as well. It's another sort of boundaries you have to understand. You know how people do things, how they wake up in the morning, what their routines are. Adjusting to that as well, I think is an interesting journey. So I just feel if the person's on the same wavelength and same understanding, they will understand where you're at and say, okay, we're trying to get to know each other, so let's just do coffee once a week, or phone calls. Just limit them. Obviously it's Ramadan. This is our if the person's on the same wavelength, that's what I'm saying, they'll be like, yep, cool. You know what? A 5 minute phone call on Monday. Was that cool? You just like communicate and be like, yeah, I can do 5 minutes. I've got a lunch break here. I'm not eating lunch, so let's just talk for 5 minutes,
Mm.
whatever. And make that work. And then
And how do you think, sorry, I'm speaking
you,
of again, it's just something that came into my mind. How do you think that maybe sending text messages or voice notes, it doesn't always have to be a phone call to let that person know you are thinking of them. So it doesn't have to be, it's not quantity time, it's quality time. Yeah.
yeah. So definitely, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think in the past I've been terrible about this, but again, I feel like it was not the best of situations where I just felt like, oh, just, I need space. If you're feeling like that, there's a big indicator and a big sign that it's not the place to be for you. Okay,
Mm,
that's just a lesson that I've learned the hard way. But yeah, if you are genuinely thinking of the person, you're like, hey, I saw this and I thought of you, or uh whatever, like it's lunchtime, I hope you're having a good break at work, or just little things like that. If I think that's harmless, like that's a nice thing. So the person knows, we haven't got much time to talk, and maybe you don't even want to talk too much during this time. Maybe there's, because of different ways of people, the way they see things, talking to a guy or a girl
mm,
during Ramadan, people might see as it probably not the best thing, even though if you're trying to do things in a halal way, sometimes people might think it's not it's not the time that I want to be talking to a guy right now or talking to a girl. So
mm,
if you are on the same wavelength, then both of you would understand that and be like, yeah, totally cool. I
mm,
get it too. And I don't want to use my Ramadan time talking to somebody,
mhm, mhm.
if that makes sense. It
Yeah.
just depends where you're at within your faith, where you are within sort of your mindset and what your beliefs are. I know we have beliefs we're Muslim, but as we mentioned in the beginning of this podcast somewhere, yeah. So as you mentioned one time where we were talking in the beginning of this podcast, you were like, just because two people are Muslim doesn't mean that they're suitable to get married,
Mhm.
right? It all depends on where you are, what kind of beliefs and things that you're following, what you have, what level, what practicing levels you're at, and then
Mhm.
also your emotional intelligence levels. I mean, there's all these areas, the mindset, the influence around you, all these topics that we covered in the podcast. It all kind of comes together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these, yeah, all those areas
Yeah.
come into boundaries.
And on the flip side, I had another couple that I spoke to this morning, and she said he was really sweet. He messaged to say, hope I'm not disturbing you. I know it's Ramadan. We'll chat more after Ramadan. And then he sent a picture of like, oh, this is what I'm making for iftar, and she was quite happy with that. Do you get me?
That was a beautiful message.
You know? Yeah, I thought that
I'd
was
be ha-
really
Yeah, I'd be happy with that message. They're thinking about you, not in a funny way. They're just generally saying, and it's totally cool. I know it's Ramadan. Great. So they've acknowledged that it's Ramadan. They've also acknowledged that, we'll talk later. They're patient enough to understand they're going to speak after Ramadan. And then they're sharing, hey, this is my iftar, which is nice. Like whoever that guy is, great. Good job. Well done. That
yeah.
was wonderful.
So it's
Yeah.
all the different ways of communicating. And by the way, I didn't know it was Green Day today.
I
What's
know. What is this? Great minds, hey?
I'm like, I switched on the camera. I went, no one told me it was Green Day today.
Yeah, and I was like, is that a thing? Is it? It took me a while. You know me, it just goes over my head. It's like, Shafina, hello.
Alhamdulillah. Well, listen,
Alhamdulillah.
as
Yeah.
usual, Shafina, great chat, great podcast today. Um, really looking forward to the next one. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll make time and get the next one recorded. Yeah, and for anyone listening, if you've got any questions for us, please pop them in the link below. We're happy to answer any questions that pop up. And what's our next topic next week? Have you thought about what we're talking about?
I actually haven't thought about the topic yet. However, if you could understand that I'm going to be heading out now,
Okay.
and I'm sure we will communicate and do our
Yeah,
voice
yeah,
notes on WhatsApp,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then we'll
All
come up
sorts of
with a
things.
topic for sure.
Yeah.
We understand how each other our boundaries are. I love it. I love
Yes, we
this
do.
relationship.
That's
Love
it. That's the good thing, alhamdulillah. But listen,
it.
you enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you're doing. Thanks for everyone for listening, and I hope everyone has a great iftar tonight. Take care. Assalamu
Alhamdulillah.
alaikum.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to this podcast. If you found this beneficial, give this video a like and hit the subscribe button to be notified for the next episode.